Well, how y'all doing? This is Mr. DeRoy Cruz, your life applications officer. Uh, I was just watching two videos on YouTube, and one was titled, "If It Were Not Filmed, No One Would Believe It." And the other one was, "The Cockiest Fighters Get Knocked the F Out." You can look them up on YouTube yourself. Talking about MMA, exposing MMA. Now, let me be very clear. I always loved martial arts when I was a kid. And martial arts did save my life a couple times. After getting beat up in school one time in middle school, just for being different than other kids, just because I wanted to be, doing sculpture while other people were outside boxing. Let me repeat that. I was interested in sculpture while other people were outside boxing. So one day a boxer came into my art class, and it was just me and the teacher, and he just came in there and beat me up and poured clay all over me for no reason. Um, and then after that, my teachers, in my hearing impaired class, she didn't know it, but I had an interest, a strong interest in learning how to defend myself. And I started taking karate lessons from Heidi Archeus. I didn't actually meet Heidi Archeus. My teacher bought me the materials, and I started really, really getting into Heidi Archeus. And I built a dojo. I cleaned out part of my attic, my grandmother's attic, and I put a dojo up there. All this was happening while I was in middle school and high school. And me and my uncle used to go up there and we'd work out in the dojo. And I'd use my uncle as my opponent to practice some of the stuff that I was learning from Heidi Archeus. I also took some private Taekwondo lessons as a child, which I didn't have the guts to use. I did use them once. Put a friend of mine in the hospital. I kicked him in the groin so hard. A lot of people will say that's not Taekwondo, but let me put it like this. When I kicked him in the groin, he left me alone. Okay? And I did learn to kick to the groin off of Taekwondo. Okay? And in the Army, which is where my friend learned Taekwondo from, he was much older than me. He learned how to kick the enemy in the groin when it comes to saving your life, when it comes to you putting a man down. Nothing works like a kick to the groin, especially when the guy's bigger than you. Okay? I also have a yellow belt in Ishinru. When I was in Job Corps back in the 90s, I never actually went to a karate academy. I almost joined CS Kim many years ago, but I didn't want to invest the money into it, and I was afraid of going in there and everything that I had already knew being totally drained of it, so I didn't go, but when I went to Job Corps, I actually took a uh, I actually took free Ishinryu lessons and gained my yellow belt. I also have a green belt in Amaradote, and if you know what Amaradote is, you're welcome to laugh. Okay, um, but you know, in other words, I know how to take care of myself in the most gruesome, nastiest ways possible if that's what I need to do to take care of myself. One of the very first fights that I was in back in middle school, a guy used to like to attack my hearing aids because I wear hearing aids. He attacked my hearing aids, and I made pizza out of his face. Okay? And then everybody got upset with me because I made pizza out of his face. Hey, hold up. What sport or what kind of game playing tells you to attack somebody's handicap? You know, attack somebody's hearing aid. So I got that guy down on the ground, which was very hard because he was fast. I got him down on the ground, and I made me a pizza. Okay, there were so much pepperoni and sausage on that pizza, man. I was considered a felon in middle school. In middle school, I was considered a felon. But I had some bad experiences growing up, and karate did save my life one day when a neighbor was bullying me. He's following me around town, trying to get in fights with me. And I finally kicked his behind and got him to leave me alone. There were other bullies in school, some repeat bullies and stuff like that, and I finally got them to understand that as I get tired of being bullied, I'm going to give up a good fight. Never did beat him, but I did give him a good fight. I put a guy through a mirror one time for taking something that was verbal and turning it physical because he couldn't beat me verbally. He decided to make it physical. And he followed me into the bathroom, and I put him in the mirror. Okay? And got suspended from school for what I had done. But he was the perp. It was self-defense. It was his crap. So I understand, is my point. Let me be clear. I understand that it's good to know how to take care of yourself, to defend yourself. And people are rotten. People will attack you in front of your wife and kids. People will attack you in front of your friends. I had a guy beat me up in church because he was jealous that I was the songwriter. I created this band, which they asked him, members of my band asked him to be our drummer, and I said, that's fine. And this guy felt that I shouldn't lead my own band. And he would try to get me to shut up and not lead. And the other guy, the big guy, told him, hey, man, he's the leader. He writes the song. This was his idea. But somehow, I'm getting beat up by the drummer. And there's just a world full of people out there, especially if you fall between a certain age limit. If you fall amongst a certain age limit, it will be almost mandatory that you know something about fighting, or that you know a lot about the type of fighting that goes on in your neighborhood. What, the local bullies what kind of fight they might try to pull you in if you're at a certain age today. Okay, and then the kids that don't know how to fight, they're going to just shoot you. I mean, I'd rather somebody choke me out than shoot me out. You know what I'm saying? So let me be very clear. I understand that if I must defend myself, I'd rather defend myself from somebody's fist than somebody's gun. If I must, uh, fight for my rights, I'd rather do it with my fist than my feet than a knife or a gun or anything like that. I would even rather, probably, let's say we're fighting over who gets the girl. I would probably rather get beat up and lose and let the guy have the girl and whatever else I have than for me to get shot and killed. And then what kind of man is this girl going to be with then, What kind of crazy murderous person is she with then? But the thing is, as I'm going to title this video, MMA, God did not ordain MMA. God did not ordain it. God did not ordain the martial arts. The martial arts are very religious. And the Jews don't have a form of martial arts. At least that's not what they practice in that part of the world for their military and police and whatever. But I knew that martial arts was very religious coming up in middle school and high school. And when me and my uncle used to go visit karate schools and stuff, we used to tell each other that. We used to talk about that. Like, hey, can we learn martial arts without all that religious nonsense? Do we have to get out and do yoga and cross our fingers and meditate in order to be good at what we do, And that was a problem for me as a Christian. That was always in the way. Until I went to camp one year, church camp, and met a black belt instructor there to taught us how to defend ourselves. And he was a born again Christian. And he showed us that he started a martial art program that is very non-religious. There's no Buddhism even though Buddhism probably designed karate, there's no Buddhism in this guy's particular style of karate. So that was good. And after that, I realized that there's nothing wrong with learning martial arts as long as you keep the religious nonsense out of it, and as long as you don't do with what they are doing with MMA. Okay? In this video, if it were not filmed, no one would believe it. In this video that I just watched, they showed MMA stars that were talking trash, and trash led to violent fights. Personally, I don't feel that they discipline these MMA stars enough to I don't think they discipline them enough for when they, break out into a fight, at their own show, or break out to a fight while they're at at a press conference, or doing the weigh-ins or whatever. How do you get into a fight? Because the media wants you to look at each other, and so you don't like the way I'm posing, so you're gonna hit me or push me or something. It's just stupid. You know. But also what is dumb is, what, I probably wouldn't fight the person. I'd probably tell Dana White, if I was in the MMA, you get that guy to shut his mouth, or there won't be a fight. The only fight we gonna be fighting is out on the street with bare knuckles, no gloves. Get that guy to shut his goddamn mouth. I gotta admit, and I watched, um, I watched, this film here. If it were not filmed, no one would believe it. I watched this film. And this one guy was talking about how, what he's going to do to this other guy. And the guy wasn't saying nothing back. He was just like smiling back there. And then all of a sudden, the dude started talking about his mama. Well, his mama probably blah, 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 blah. He stood up. He said, oh, whoa, 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 man. My mama? What you got to say about my mama? Wait a minute. This is how far we got. He said, look, man, don't say another word about my mama. My mama's off limits to you. Okay? Dude kept on. The dude went over there, and he was so determined to get to the dude, he was shoving everybody out of the way. I mean, Conor McGregor. I do not like him. I really don't. I wouldn't like Conor McGregor if I was an MMA star myself. That never will ever have to fight Conor McGregor. I would not like Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor is an insult to my morals. Everybody he's ever fought, whether he won or lose, or whether he won or lost, he had to talk trash. He had to piss them off to where they don't like him. And even after he beat them, they still don't like him. They still don't like him. They'll sit there and congratulate him on his success and say, yeah, if you're going to get in the ring with Conor McGregor, this is what you better have going for you. But they don't like the dude. Nobody likes him. Okay? And nobody's going to put him on a pedestal, and I'm telling you, the day that he loses a fight, if he hasn't lost one already recently, the day he loses a fight, everybody's going to go get drunk. They're going to be cheering so hard. They're going to go get drunk. They're going to go crazy. They're probably going to post it all over the streets. I mean, that guy there deserves a butt. You talking about somebody that deserves a butt kicking? That's him. That's the dude. That dude deserves a serious TKO. Okay? Or a STO. No, a SKO. Super knockout. I mean, he really needs... Oh, I'm going to bed. He really needs to be knocked out. But it's not just Conor, but there's other ones too. Some of these newer bloods coming into the mix, man. They just talk too much trash. And you got to ask yourself, what is it that makes them do that? Wait a minute. So we got to make it, let's say maybe this is all part of the act. You have to say nice things. I mean, not nice things. They're not, ain't nothing nice about them. You have to say entertaining things. Okay? And you have to talk that hype and jive. Okay? To entertain your ticket purchasers. Okay? your ticket buyers. You have to put on a show for them. So they can go, ooh, ooh, and pay more money, I guess. I don't know. That's what you have to do? Okay, but wait a minute. Who's paying anyone to talk about somebody's mama? Who's paying anyone to talk about anyone's family? You know, I remember what stirred Ronda Rousey to beat Misha Tate so much was Misha Tate talking. Misha Tate had something to say about, I think it was Rousey's mother or something like that. Um, and then Ronda Rousey just kept hating on Holly Holm, and I believe that's what kind of gave Holly Holm the extra hard, press to knock her out. Okay, and boy did she knock her out. And then oh, what's his name? Daniel Cormier kept talking trash to John Jones until John Jones knocked him out. Okay, there's so many. There's so many. Nate Diaz had enough of Conor McGregor, and then he knocked him out. He beat him. He beat him to a pulp. Okay. And there's more. There's many, many, many others where the trash talker, like in the next videos I read, the cockiest fighters get knocked the F out, and a lot of them did. Okay. For talking a lot of trash. But I don't believe that God ordained MMA. I don't believe that God is smiling at MMA. I don't believe that God sees MMA as a positive sport that's leaving a positive message for our kids or whatever. I remember one time I was working a job, and one of the guys that I worked with had a belt in karate. I didn't let him know I had any prior martial art training, but, one of the guys I worked with had a belt in karate, and when it came to down to whether I want to listen to the boss or listen to him, he was all ready to use his karate on me. He felt that because he knew Taekwondo, that I had to understand that he was a threat to me. And that I'm going to do what he says do instead of what the boss says do. And I told him, take his best shot. I'm going to do what the policies and procedures tell me to do. I already had my talk with the boss. I'm going to do what, the boss told me to do. I mean, what you going to do? Give me a fat lip? The boss will fire me and I'll be out of a job. I'd rather take the fat lip and keep my job. Okay? But if that boy had a snap, if he had to try to stance, I'd have laid something on him. Okay? I can take care of myself. I do have a little bit of training. Maybe not as much as him. I think he was I think he might have been a red belt. I don't know. But he was willing to get violent with me over things that have nothing to do with anything. He was ready to get violent with me on the job. He didn't need to get angry. He didn't need to get violent with me. He didn't need to do anything but understand that I am his coworker. I didn't do anything wrong to him. He just felt like I owed him something. He had some chip on his shoulder or something, His cockiness got carried away. Cockiness is another thing. And a lot of cops are cocky until they end up in a place where their life is on the line, and they can understand that it's only the grace of God that they're still alive, because when they got knocked down on the ground and the gun was in one place and the taser was in another, okay, the only reason why they didn't get shot or abused in some way while the other officers were busy is because of the grace of God. So they know. And that's when they start calming down with the cockiness. I know over in New Kensington, my hometown, I got to be pretty cool with the police over there because we started working out together at the YMCA. That was part of their training, and that to work out, at the local YMCA. The town's not that big. And so I got to know some of them. And some of the guys that I worked out with, I know them. They probably didn't remember, but I knew them from years ago when I first moved into New Kensington. And one time we had to 302 somebody very close to me. And this guy come over, and I know this guy from the first time he came up, when I lived up in the projects. He came up there, and twice. And one time he threatened me, put me in my place about something domestic. And then another time he came up and threatened to arrest somebody that pulled me into another domestic situation. And he had my back, But he told me, he says, hey, he says, I've been working for the police for a good while now, and I remember when I first started working for the police. And he says, a lot of these young cops, they think that they can just go out here on the street like they walking into a dojo and just go hi-ya, and everybody's going to put their hands up in forming a position. And it don't work that way. He says, if you can get through today, he says, if I can get through today without shooting somebody or getting shot, okay, or watching somebody's baby die in my presence, he said, then I feel I've accomplished a good day. I feel like I'm accomplishing something. But he says it's not just the people and it's not just the police, but it's, the community and the store owners and all these different people who don't want to do their part in trying to solve problems in a community. It's all of our faults, But the guy came a long way. And when he was young, he was real cocky, I remember, like them MMA stars. He always had an answer for everything. Always had an answer for everything. But in closing, even though God is a God of war, God is also merciful. God is justice. God is love. Okay? God is spirit. Okay? And if the light that be in you be darkness, how great is that darkness? That's what the Bible says. And what spirit are you walking around with? Are you walking around with the spirit of Buddha? Or walking around with the spirit of a madman that just wants to beat the crap out of somebody? And your kids watching MMA, and they might, you tell them it's a sport. You don't want to catch them doing this around the house, but trust me. You get a kid that don't know how to do the math. He don't know how to do the bookkeeping. He's going to think beating people up is the only thing he got that he can accomplish. So why not do that, And I see a lot of these MMA people, the women as well as the men, how hard they work to make what? Millions of dollars. It's all about money. I believe that MMA stars, just like porn stars, they sacrifice their dignity. And they sacrifice their dignity and their self-worth and their honor when they get in the ring. And you ever notice in the ring, I think it's probably the rule of thumb, but you ever notice in the ring that when they win a fight, most of them are concerned about cheering, okay, before they worry about the person that they just knocked out or choked out, Now, I've seen other people, like I've seen Holly Holm. Well, then again, when Holly Holm beat Ronda Rousey, she ran around that ring like a eagle. She had her arms out. She's running around the ring, and she was excited. But I mean, I know that Holly Holm, she hates when she has to really do her opponent in, and and it's not just MMA, but the spirit of MMA is even in hockey and soccer and stuff. And I've seen hockey players actually try to hurt. And if the referee doesn't really watch it closely, he don't see it. It looks like an accident because you're always getting banged up in hockey. But I've seen hockey and soccer players go out of their way to hurt their opponent. And they kept on doing it until the referee finally called them out on it. Till the referee called it, they kept on doing it. Kept on hurting their opponent. I was watching a soccer game at my restaurant over in what we call Squirrel Hill. My little restaurant, I think it's called North Restaurant or something over there. Really nice place. And I seen this guy injure another soccer player. He didn't even go after the ball. He went straight for his foot, kicked him right in his instep. Guy went down like a brick and was holding his leg. He got pulled off the field. And this guy, he purposely went and kicked that dude. Now, he did it to another player twice. And they got in a fight, and then they made him go sit on the bench until after the halftime. But, people are ruthless. And you got these MMA stars, and another video I watched was about, I forget the title, but it was all about MMA stars getting in trouble. And it talked about all the different MMA stars that were in and out of prison. MMA stars who had raped women. MMA stars who had crippled the ex-husband or the ex-boyfriend and all this kind of stuff. And, MMA stars who were in jail for attacking other MMA stars outside the ring, as well as using their martial arts skills to force people to give them what they want. Everything from sex to, money. And ending up in jail for it. And a lot of these MMA stars, they come from some very rough places, just like porn stars. They come from some very rough home environments in the past, present, in the past, in the past. They come from some very sad home environments. Some of them, they were abused by their mother. Some of these women. Some of these women were abused sexually. A lot of these men were abused by their fathers or abandoned by their fathers and abused mentally, sexually. They were programmed, to be a certain way, raised by their mother who didn't care. But MMA is not ordained by God. And, I'm all for, I remember when I first took my first Ishinru full contact fight. It was part of the curriculum. In order to go to your next belt, matter of fact, that's how I got my yellow belt, I had to fight 2 people. Full contact. Okay. The only thing we had was a mouthpiece and I think boxing gloves or something. I forget exactly, but we fought. And the guy kept kicking me, and finally, because I'm the kicker, but this guy, he knew I was a kicker, so he came in kicking. And he kept kicking and kicking and kicking until I got sore and I started hitting him. Every time he put that foot up, I went straight for that liver. And finally, I got a liver shot that hurted him, and I jumped in there and was able to restrain him from doing any more swinging and kicking. So I won the fight, and I got my yellow belt, But I don't argue with people anymore when people talk trash, to me and stuff like that. I used to do it in a very, 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 very most recent past. I mean, like just a year ago, maybe. I was very mouthy with everybody that was mouthy with me. And sometimes, even when the enemy is talking, sometimes you should just shut up and listen. And let him hang himself. But you talk trash with him, and he starts losing. Okay, he starts, it's like he's losing 2 fights, okay, at the same time. Eventually it's going to get physical. Because in his mind, he's already in a fight. And it's going to get physical. And so, I don't, when people talk trash, back in the day, I used to feel like, you talk trash to me, I'm talk trash to you back. I just tell people. And another thing I've learned is that there's so much hatred in the world today. And I believe this is where MMA, a lot of it is derived. There's so much hatred in the world today that people will break out into a fight about just about anything. Just about anything. You could be talking about a pencil sharpener. And boom, next thing you know, you're duking it out, You could be talking about anything. But, what idiot allows an idiot to talk about somebody's mama? Or any member of his family? His wife? Anybody? This is a sport. But these MMA guys, they'll talk to each other like they on the street. And a lot of that is because before they became MMA, they was on the street. And that's where they got their skills from, off the street. Okay? But, and I guess that makes a better ultimate fighter, but God did not ordain MMA. MMA was created by men, and just like a lot of other things, just like beer and pornography, was created by men. It's very entertaining, but the results are totally against the family structure. The results are totally against the family structure. So, anyway, that's all I have for you tonight. I just was thinking about these two videos and thinking about my martial art history and stuff and people I fought with over years and stuff like that. MMA is not ordained by God. But God is all for you knowing how to defend yourself. God is all for you being involved in sports that make everybody laugh and makes everybody content, with the results, you know. You want to know how to defend yourself, that's fine. But the problem with knowing how to defend yourself and the problem with having a belt in martial arts or whatever, I've seen people try to provoke me into a fight so they could defend themselves from me. That's how desperate they were to practice their stuff in the wrong place. When you go home to your comfort zone, you can do whatever you want to do. But don't pick fights at work. But MMA was not ordained by God. So when you take your kids to watch MMA fight, when you take your daughters, when you have friends that are in MMA and you got a beautiful wife swinging on your arm, and your MMA buddies are making your wife laugh and all like that, you don't know what demons you're dealing with. Okay? You don't. So, there you have it. God bless you. I'm going to bed. And, Lord willing, I'll be making another video real soon. So, let me know what you think. Good night.